Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining today. We wanted to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyamsundar, Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal, Gonita Shila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. So we continue with study of overview of chapter 8 now, Bhagavad Gita. We did chapter 1 to 7 yesterday. So chapter 1 is called Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra, Vishada Yoga. Contents of the Gita summarizes number 2, Sankhya Yoga, and Karma Yoga is chapter 3. Chapter 4 is Jnana Yoga, transcendental knowledge. Chapter 5 is Karma Vairagya Yoga, Karma Yoga, action in Krishna Yoga, consciousness. Chapter 6 is Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, or Abhyas Yoga. Abhyas Yoga is the name. Then chapter 7, knowledge of the absolute, Paramhamsa Vigyan Yoga. And now chapter 8 is Akshara Parabrahma Yoga. So let's have a look at the summary. Arjun asks Krishna.
Can you go to the before page once?
Yeah, sure.
Prabhuji, are these the names that we call all the chapters in Sanskrit?
That's correct.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Good observation, young man. Arjun asks Krishna about the terms he uses in the last verse of the 7th chapter. And the Lord answers him and then focuses on Arjun's important question about how we can know Krishna at the time of death. So he's got loads of questions this time. Many would consider it morbid to contemplate death, but it is nevertheless a real situation that nobody wants to experience, but that everyone has to face. So death is not natural for us because the soul is eternal. So it's a really horrific experience for the unsuspecting soul because it's going to happen. Of course, a self-realized soul is well aware and well prepared for such situation. There are 4 unavoidable predicaments: birth, disease, old age, and death. Of course, old age is quite predictable, but it's unavoidable predicament. It's not avoidable. It will happen. We often forget the inevitability of death, and thus Krishna deals with this very subject. The themes of this chapter are, so Arjuna asks a whole series of questions, and one of them happens to be, what happens at the time of death? Krishna replies, what state of consciousness one has at the time of death. Krishna also describes the destination. Krishna also describes the destination of various spiritual practitioners. And he also describes what happens to the yogi at different times of passing, and also the supreme position of his devotee. Very interesting chapter, Attaining the Supreme. So Riyansh, please read the text.
Yes, Prabhuji. Text 1. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain the story. Text 2. Who is the Lord of sacrifice? And how does he live in the body, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Text 3. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma or fruitive activities. Text 4. All rest of the embodied beings, the physical nature which is constantly changing is called Adibhuta. the material manifestation, the universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods like those of the sun and moon, is called Adideva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being, called Adi Yagna, the Lord of the sacrifice.
Keep going, young man. Oh, that's it. Sorry. So, thank you, Riyansh. Now, doubting is a function of intelligence, and at no point in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna reprimand Arjuna for asking so many questions. So questions are very important. Doubts have to be cleared. Otherwise, it's just blind faith, right? And we know into blind faith. On the contrary, he encourages Arjuna to intelligently contemplate all the answers and subsequently make his own decisions. So this Krishna is giving that independence. He's not forcing Arjuna, but he's giving advice. He's giving guidance. He's giving instructions, which he also gives the option for Arjuna to follow or not follow. This chapter opens with Arjuna's questions on several spiritual concepts. So he asks about so many different things. He asks about Brahman, the self, fruitive activities, material manifestations, the demigods. He asks, who is the Lord of sacrifice? How does he live in the body? Krishna just gives him straight answers. The indestructible, transcendent living entity is Brahman. His eternal nature is Adhyatma, the self. So literally one-word answers to most of the questions. Fruitive activity, action pertaining to development of material body. What are the material manifestations? Well, they're constantly changing. Adibhuta. What are the demigods? He doesn't completely answer that one immediately. He gives that answer a little later. The universe who formed the Lord, includes other demigods, like those of the sun and the moon, are called Adideva. And then he explains about the Lord of Sacrifice and how he lives as a super soul in the heart of every embodied being. So literally, first 6 questions, he just gives such straight answers, short and straight. But then the last question. So tell me, Arjuna saying, what happens at the time of death, especially those who engaged in devotional service? And then that's it. Krishna starts. So he answers 7 of his 8 questions immediately. Then he prepares for the final question. How can one attain a spiritual destination at the time of death? And the rest of the chapter is dedicated solely to answer these inquiries. So spiritual inquiries are very important. They're good for the inquirer, they're good for those who answer, and they're good for the audience. And the most, I would say the most prominent example of this is the Srimad Bhagavatam. The inquirer was Parikshit Maharaj, the answerer was Shukadev Goswami, and the audience was all the sages. And everybody benefited. Everybody benefits. Parikshit Maharaj went back to Godhead. Shukadev Goswami perfected his life, and the audience became enlightened. So questions are very important. So let's read a bit more. Prabha Ben, maybe? Is she there? Yeah, Prabha Ben, would you like to read these?
Yes. I forgot today almost. I was doing some other jobs. Hare
No
Krishna,
problem,
everyone.
no problem. Thank you.
I thought it hasn't been up, Asri, but it was because I came downstairs a bit late. I was doing some sewing anyway. Yes, Hare Krishna, everybody, Prabhuji, and all the devotees. Chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme, text 5. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone at once, attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Text 6. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body. Is it 0 or O? O son.
Oh, son of Kunti.
O son of Kunti, that states he will attain without fail. Text 7. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna. At the same time, carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Text 8.
Oh, sorry, yeah, carry on, carry on.
He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path he, O Pratna. Now, O Parat, is he sure to reach me? What is undeviated?
Undeviated means those who have not, they are very focused. They are, they don't get swayed by anything. So they never stop thinking about God. Never stop thinking about God.
Never stop thinking about
God.
God, okay. Yeah. Right, thank you.
No, thank you. So Krishna is very clear here. For those engaged in worldly pursuits, hearing about, contemplating, and accepting the end, death, is not the most inspiring reflection. For a spiritualist, however, the end is not a depressing thought, since his concept of life and its purpose is much broader. For one who is born, death is certain. For one who dies, birth is around the corner. So Krishna explains how a person's thoughts at death sum up their consciousness and aspiration cultivated throughout life. So it said that when the time of death comes, we will, all of our past life will just flash before us. So what we have done in our past life, especially if they're spiritual activities, will really come in handy at that time. So if we've just been engaged in crazy things, and that's what's going to come in our minds at the end of life. So that's why it is this, thus one's state of mind at the time of death determines their next situation. For those who remember God at death, they reach the kingdom of God. This is very powerful, very, very, very powerful. And Krishna is very clear in his wordings as well. He who meditates on me as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, mind is constantly engaged in remembering me, is sure to reach me. Yeah. So, and number 7, should always think of him in the form of Krishna. And at the same time, do your duty of fighting. So we can do our duties, whatever they are, according to our body and circumstances. Whatever our duties are. But at the same time, Krishna is recommending Arjuna, think of me, at the same time as doing out your duty. So very good, very amazing how Krishna gives guidance. And this is from the Bhagavatam. This is Maharaj Bharat. He was a king. He was Raj Rishi. In fact, the whole planet is named after Maharaj Bharat. Bharat is the name of this whole planet, whole world. And it was named after Maharaj Bharat, who gave up the kingdom and he went to the forest and he started meditating and he attained a very high level of consciousness. Next to Prem, he attained the mood of Bhav, which is next to Prem. Prema Bhakti, the highest. But then one day he saw a deer in trouble in the river, and the deer gave birth to a baby deer, a foal, and the mother deer died. So Maharaj Bharat rescued the baby deer from the river and started caring for the deer. And he forgot about his spiritual duties. He started caring about the deer. he would always be wondering if the deer was not with him. Where is the deer? Hope he's not hungry. Hope the lion hasn't eaten him, etc., etc. At the time of death, Maharaj Bharat, instead of thinking about God, was thinking about who will look after my deer. And in his next life, he became a deer. He became a deer. But because he was so close to full love of Godhead, Krishna allowed him to remember his birth as Maharaj Bharat. And as a deer, he remembered, he was lamenting, I was so close and I blew it. And as a deer, he went to the sages and he just would stay together with the sages, eating their remnants, hearing their katha. When he died as a deer, he took birth as Jad Bharat. As Jad Bharat, he remembered his two lives, as a deer and as Maharaj Bharat. And he decided, no more deviation. I will be undeviated from the path. So he acted dumb and deaf, but he was completely focused on Krishna, on the Supreme Lord. And he became liberated. At the end of his life as Jad Bharat, he went back to the spiritual world. So this is a phenomenal example given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, how our thoughts at the end of life make such a big difference to us. Yes, sir, Prabhupada.
Yes, you talked about this Bharat, and did you say after his death he became deer? Did you say that when he was deer, then he started doing his spiritual things again?
Yeah,
Because
he remembered. So he was around the sages all the time, listening to the katha, eating their prasadam.
Yeah, okay.
And then when he died as a deer, he became Jad Bharat.
Jad Bharat.
As Jad Bharat, he just then focused himself completely on God, completely.
All right. So after coming, first he came to deer, then he started staying near the sages, and then eating prasad, and then when he died, he came to Jad Bharat.
Yeah.
And okay, carry on. I will ask you later on.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next. Oh, yeah, sorry, the lesson. This is so important. Every 15 minutes or even less time, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, say Krishna out loudly or to yourself, whether you're working, eating, playing. In this way, you are training your mind to constantly think of Krishna. It is said that at the end of life, one's whole life flashes in front of us. So it's important to remember Krishna throughout our life, so that we remember him at the end of our life. So this is very important. Now and then, just call out Krishna, 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 Krishna. So thank you. Let's go to text 9 onwards. Shamalini, would you like to read? Are you able to read?
Yes, Prabhu, I can.
Okay, very good.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everybody. Text 9, one should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental, beyond this material nature. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engage himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 11, persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkar, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. Text 12, the yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. Text 13, after being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters. If one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain. O son of Prita, because of this constant engagement in devotional service. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion, where are we? Who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Text 16, from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery where in repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Text 17. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day. And such also is the duration of his night. Text 17, I've done that probably.
Yeah, text 18 now.
Yeah, text 18, at the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state. And thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. Text 19, again and again when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being. And with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Text 20, yet there is another unmanifest nature, which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. That which is the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. Text 22, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is unattainable by unalloyed devotion. Is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all pervading and everything is situated within him.
Thank you. There's quite a few verses there from 9 to 22. So the gist of this is this world is a temporary university specifically created to give life lessons. So we're living in this world to learn and to get out of this place. Because as spiritual beings, life in a complex world of matter is an incompatible situation. We are eternal beings, but we're living in a world of temporary things. When one becomes frustrated by the pursuits of this world, we can realize that happiness lies in another realm. We know as soon as we get something, we've suddenly become, before we get it, we were thinking, wow, this is really going to help me in my life. This is the solution to my problems. So as soon as we get it, you think, oh, is that it? That didn't help me at all. So one becomes frustrated by the pursuits of this world. We can then realize, actually, hang on, if enough frustration, and we realize, okay, this place is not going to give us any happiness. We have to find it in a different place. While the material world is rubber-stamped as a constant changing place of misery, the spiritual world is distinguished as being eternal and all blissful. There are many painstaking ways in which different spiritualists conduct their lives in order to attain that supreme destination. And having attained it, one never returns to this temporary realm again. So what are these different practices that to attain the supreme destination? Karma Kand, of course, that's not a practice that's going to take us to the supreme. Karma Yoga, that's going to take us up to heaven and beyond a little bit. Jnana Yoga will take us to the Brahman, which is the effulgence of the Lord. Not good enough. Ashtanga Yoga might take us to Brahman and beyond, Paramatma. But Bhakti Yoga is what we want. Take us to Supreme Lord himself. And this is, we've been seeing this one a few times. If simply we are eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and no thought about the greater purpose of life, then how are we any better than the animals? So that's where we're going to end up, in the animal kingdom. If we do the business transaction with God, with the demigods, I'll worship you, you give me. I worship you, Lord Shiva, give me a house, give me a wife, give me some cars. That's just a business transaction, karma kanda activity. And that maybe if we do good activities in that process, we might end up in heaven. But generally, you're back on earth. Karma yoga, when it's nishkam karma yoga, especially when we renounce the fruits of our activities and we're not attached to the fruits, that's a good sign. That's a yogi. And we'll attain heaven and go to the planets of our ancestors, the Prajapatis. Beyond that is Gyan Yoga, where we get some knowledge, we realize knowledge. Then at least the Brahman stage may be possible, but we don't really want that. That's even worse than hell, because we're merging into God. And merging into God, we don't want to do that, because that's becoming, we're thinking we're going to become God. That's ridiculous. Then Dhyana Yoga or Astanga Yoga.
Sorry if you don't mind me.
Yes.
When we merge into God,
yes.
So we become one. Is it the soul enters the...
Yeah, it enters the Brahmajyoti.
Okay.
What happens is you don't actually merge, because the soul is always going to be separate, but it merges into the Brahman, in the sense that it becomes one with Brahman. Yeah. So, but the soul, because the soul is always individual, right? Natvevaham jatunasam, as Krishna explained to Arjuna. In the Brahman, there's no activity, but the soul is always active. But in the Brahman, he's sitting there in meditation. And at some point, he's likely to get bored and come back down to the heavens. Because there's no activity. Brahman means you're in the effulgence of the Lord, where there's nothing to do. And the soul is always active. It wants something to do. It has so many desires. So those desires will again come and place the soul back in the material world at some point. Most likely. Some people probably stay in the Brahman, that's their position. But mostly they'll come back. Or some will come back at least. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu. It's a bit, yeah. Oh, so you said that it's a place where there's no activity. Is that where
No,
Lord Vishnu lies?
no,
No.
no Vishnu there. It's his effulgence. It's the brightness from his body.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Now
because
this-
he has this natural effulgence from his body, and that light is what is Brahman. That's where these Gyanis or the Mayavadis will go. Merge
the
with him.
Mayavadis, so the one who, why will they go there, Mayavadis?
Mayavadi, because they want to merge with God. They're thinking that I am God, everybody is God. So they will end up in the Brahman.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
So the Mayavadis, the Gyanis who have no knowledge of this personality of God, they are thinking God is impersonal. Krishna regards them as spiritualists, but because they want to merge with God, from the Gaudiya Vaishnava point of view, that's horrible. You want to merge with God? Why would you want to merge with God? We want to serve God. Do you see the difference?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. Any
It's
more
like
questions? Yes,
you know
go on.
is it like, for example, I just want to give an example, like
Yes,
you know
yes.
the Brahma Kumari, they always meditate on the light.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. They don't believe in the form of God. That's right. Spot on.
Thank you, Prabhu.
That's good. Yeah, good example. Yeah, good example. Krishna doesn't condemn them, but he does say in the 12th chapter, this is a very arduous process. And it's not the highest either. So he doesn't condemn them, but he does make it clear that the bhakti yoga is higher than that. So then Astanga Yoga, which is the 6th chapter, where through the process of meditation, sitting nicely, one may attain Brahman again, or Paramatma. The Astanga Yogi, he's meditating on the Lord within his heart. So he may attain Paramatma. And what attaining Paramatma means is, I'm not too clear, I have to say. It's not much more different than Brahman. But that distinction is not been made available to us. Bhakti Yoga, the highest ladder, that's loving devotional service. You put your mind, your senses, your intelligence in serving the Lord, surrendering to him completely. And that is considered to be the direct process to attain God. Attain Golok Vrindavan, which is where we want to be. Or Vaikuntha, depending on our mood. Okay, so I think this is the last section. Sitaram Prabhu, are you there? Would you like to recite these?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Attaining the Supreme. Text number 23. Obeisance of Bharatas. I shall now explain to you the different types at which, passing away from the world, the yogi does or does not come back. Text 24. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain the Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God in the light at an auspicious moment of the day. During the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Text 25. The mystic who passes away from the world, from this world, during the spoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again come back. Text 26. According to Vedic opinion, There are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. Text 27. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. 28. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the result derived from studying the Veda, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing the philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So that's the end of chapter 8, Ksara Paman Yoga. And the summary of the last 6 verses, as different spiritual practices are discussed in this chapter, Krishna concludes by outlining the most effective process to attain the Supreme. Bhakti Yoga, the path of active service to God in the mood of devotion, is described as the topmost and quickest path. Following, and more than that. Okay, good. Following other processes like Astanga Yoga or Gyan Yoga or Kama Yoga, the practitioner has to be careful of all the technicalities and intricacies. For example, passing away when the sun is in the north. If one passes away when the sun is in the north, one will be destined to go to higher planets. If one is passing away at the time of when the sun is in the south, then one will go down to the lower planets. So if we are not following Bhakti Yoga, we have to worry about this, passing away at the right time. So Bhishma, for example, he waited until the sun entered the northern hemisphere. And when the sun entered in the northern hemisphere, he left his body. Of course, he was a devotee of the Lord, but this is an example of when one has to be careful, because the result of either are very different. However, with Bhakti Yoga, which is very powerful process as required in this age of rampant materialism and temptation, coupled with individual weakness and lack of spiritual aspiration, the devotee is completely reliant on the Lord and does not have to worry about where the sun is. So Bhakti Yoga, the sun can be in the north, in the south, who cares? He is simply surrendered onto the Supreme Lord. It doesn't matter. So, lesson from this. The devotee simply relies on the mercy of the Lord. Even if the Lord offers him all types of liberation, the devotee does not accept because he simply wants to serve the Lord. And if that is the mood of the devotee, then Krishna finds it impossible to repay the debt to such a devotee. And thus, Krishna becomes conquered by the devotee's love because he can't reciprocate. And the example is gopis. He told them, after them coming to him, when he started playing the flute, and they came in the middle of the night, and he said to them, after some pastimes, he said to them, I can't repay you of my debt to you. What you're doing for me, I have no ways of repaying you. Just be happy with what you're doing. He's conquered by their love. So this is the different types of liberation that the Lord offers. So this is in this Srimad Bhagavatam 3:29-13.
Salokya sarasti samipya sarupya katvar piuta diyamanam nagrinanti vinamat sevanam janaha. A pure devotee does not accept any kind of liberation. Salokya sarasti samipya surupya or ekatva, even though they are offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So what are these different things? Salokya. Salokya is living on the same planet as the Supreme Lord. Srashti, having the same opulences as God. Samipya, to be a personal associate of the Lord. Sarupya, had the same bodily features as the Lord. Or Ekatva, which is the oneness which we were talking about earlier, which definitely is considered worse than hellish. So even these others, these other four, the devotee will say, no, I don't want. I just want to serve you. I don't need anything. And that mood conquers Krishna. Because life after life, they want to just remain a devotee at the lotus feet of the Lord and serve him unconditionally. Very powerful. So that's the end of chapter 8. Phenomenal chapter, which is attaining this supreme, amazing chapter. Krishna gives so much nectar in this chapter. Any questions, any comments, any doubts?
Prabhu, if you don't, so by just bhakti yoga,
Yes.
That's all we need to practice in our life. We don't have to do any meditation.
That's part of it. Bhakti yoga, because we do japa. This japa is meditation. Yeah.
Okay.
That is the meditation.
Like some people, that when they meditate, they say they close their eyes. I don't know how to do that one, but I'm just, yeah.
Yeah. True. But the thing is, when we do japa, it may be that when one closes one's eyes and even, covers oneself, you find a space where you can really focus. And that meditation is important because the focus on the holy names is crucial. So some people meditate on the light, or they meditate on Om, which is not a bad thing. Om is a fantastic thing to meditate on. But if we're thinking we can just chant Hare Krishna and not focus on the holy names or the sound, then we're still quite far away. So when we chant, it is a process of meditation. It is a time when we, create a situation for ourselves where we are totally focused on the chanting. Nothing disturbs us. There's nothing that can come in the way between us and the chanting and the holy names. So that's why devotees chant early morning, before anybody gets up, before even the birds get up, so that the focus, the meditation is properly situated. We're meditating properly. Is that okay, Shamini?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. Yeah, I understand
Hare
that.
Krishna, Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Prabhu, Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Oh, sorry, somebody is asking.
Yeah, Sitaram.
Yes, Prabhu.
carry on.
Yes, as I have told you, is that when we chant the holy names, we're just hearing the names of Krishna and Hare, and we get the transcendental bliss. We are happy with it. Even you have already completed the 16th round or 18th round.
Right.
But it gives you pleasure. You have the desire to chant more. Especially in the Ekadashi day when you chant minimum 25 rounds. So it's happy. We get happy as myself without any ego, whatever it is. But I like chanting the names, the holy names. Yesterday was Ekadashi. It was very fine for me, the chanting. I chant the holy name alone because my Dharampatni, my son, daughter-in-law, they are living privately. So better you do not tell them anything. Okay, Prabhu, Haribol.
No, thank you for sharing that. And it's always nice when I hear you say this, because this is the most important thing we're doing. Yeah. There's nothing more important than chanting the holy names.
Chanting the holy names. And above all, is studying Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita is Amrit itself. You do not want to leave it. So it's like this, Prabhu. Okay, Haribol.
Thank you. Thank you. So, yes, sir, Bhagavad.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. She finished. You said earlier about shouting Krishna's name every 5 minutes.
Shouting, or just saying it to yourself, even.
Loudly.
It doesn't have to be. If it's awkward, if there's a lot of other people, just within your mind.
Just say Krishna.
Krishna. Every now and then, so that it becomes practice. I
think it comes practice plus you are chanting.
You're chanting. That's right.
Which is helping you.
Which is helping you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you very, very much for your enthusiasm is very nice, Prabhu.
Thank you. No, because every time I just want to learn more from this.
Yes.
This morning I watched your YouTube and you were showing, I think 8 hours ago, how to go in the temple, how you bow.
Oh, yeah.
And then you was telling that we are going to put the bell here. And then Mataji was showing how to give prasad. And
oh, wow, you saw that. Okay.
Yeah, and then I haven't finished the video yet, but I have to finish it because I think it's a long.
So yeah, it's a little long. It's about an hour and a half, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so half of it I watch it, but I'm going to finish it.
Thank you very much.
It is really nice. It is telling us how to go near the God. Oh, really nice, very nice.
Which video is that?
Oh, I'll send it to you.
I think it's in the YouTube.
Yeah. We did
training
session yesterday in the temple.
Yeah. So it was interesting. Very interesting.
The devotees who came were so amazing, they're so nice. Just Krishna's just
and you was telling how to do seva.
Yeah.
Which is good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, very kind. Very kind.
Send me the video, Prabhu.
I will do.
Because we need to learn all the time, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think we learn every day something new from somebody, which is
That's
good,
the attitude. That's the attitude. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And learn from the mistakes.
Yeah. Well, I made so many of them.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, chapter 8 ki jai.